Welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we've got a puzzle for you by one of my very favourite constructors, Clover. And I have to say, when I was sent this puzzle and I opened it up, I was pretty nonplussed. This is called 159 Skyscraper, because it's a 159 Sudoku, which we've covered on the channel a couple of times before, and some skyscraper clues, which are all the number 5. And apparently it has a unique solution. It just doesn't seem to me like it should have. But anyway, I'll read you the rules of this one in just a moment. I have a couple of quite exciting announcements to tell you about first. Well, let's get on with the first thing. It is now, by the time this video is live, you should have sent in your solution to our Patreon reward puzzle for September, the Looney Tunes Sudoku Hunt. If you haven't, sneak it in quickly because we're going to release the solution video for that tomorrow. And we'll also be doing the draw for the merchandise. So really the deadline is right now. And the other thing I want to mention, which is just extraordinary, is that there is a new classic Sudoku pack on the world Sudoku scene. Now this is probably the most extraordinary classic Sudoku pack that has ever been created. It's the work of constructors like Shy, Philip Newman, Jovial and Sam Kappelman-Lynes. And they've put together a pack, and I think it's something like 50 Sudokus large, in which each Sudoku showcases a particular advanced Sudoku technique. I kid you not. And some of the techniques that seem to be covered in this pack are quite exotic techniques indeed. In fact, I'm wondering whether or not we might want to cover a couple of the Sudokus on the channel, because there are definitely techniques in there that I have never heard of, and I would quite like to know what they are. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to the pack under the video. If I remember as well, I will post it on Patreon as a free post later. So if any of you want to brush up on your classic Sudoku skills, definitely check that out. It is a quite extraordinary thing. Now, all that said and done, let's get to 159 Skyscraper and see what Clover's got in store for us. So we have got normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits in column 1 indicate the column in which the digit 1 appears in that row. E.g., if row 4 column 1 is a 6, that's that square, if that's a 6, then row 4 column 6 is a 1. I see, yes. So because this is basically indexing the position of the 1 in its row. So this being 6 is saying go to the 6th column and you should find a 1 in there. So if that was an 8, you would go to the 8th column and put a 1 in there. So that's how that works for the first column. You can see there are 2 other columns in red here, because the same applies in column 5 and column 9 with the digits 5 and 9 respectively. So this column is where we index the position of the 5. So let's imagine this was an 8 again. Then the 8th column would have to contain a 5. That would work like that. And then this column is doing the 9. So if let's imagine this was a 1, that would be saying in the first column is where the 9 should go. So that is how the 159 part of this works, but Clover has also implemented skyscraper rules. So I'll read you the skyscraper rules and then I'll show you this great animation that Chain Bear made for us to illustrate how they work. So each digit in the grid represents a skyscraper with a height corresponding to its value. Taller skyscrapers block smaller skyscrapers from view. Clues outside the grid indicate how many skyscrapers can be seen in total when looking along that row or column from that direction. Now that sounds complicated, but it's really not once you get your head around it. So this is Chain Bear's animation of how it works. So you can see, there you go, look at that, isn't that beautiful? So I'll just pause it there. So coming from this direction, you can see that the heights are 2, 4, 5, 7 and 9. All of those could be seen from this direction because the 4 sort of towers over the 2, the 5 is slightly higher than the 4, the 7 is then higher than the 5, the 9 is higher than all of them. The 1 and the 3 can never be seen because they're hidden by the 5 and indeed the 4. So that's how it works. And then if you look at this row from the other direction, and I think that's what it's going to go on to show us, there you go. You can see from this direction you only see the 8 and the 9, everything else is blocked out. And hopefully that gives you a visual picture for how skyscrapers work. Isn't that beautiful? Thanks Chain Bear for making that for us. And right, I think that's all there is. That seems to be the end of the rules. So do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video. I've no idea how hard this is. Clover's puzzles are normally fairly approachable because, of course, Clover is one of the authoresses behind, well, she's an authoress behind the gas sequence of puzzles that appear on the Discord server every day, along with, I think, Sam and Philip. So, anyway, I think I haven't said, have I said let's get cracking? Let's get cracking. Now, I mean, it's just extraordinary. You've got a whole, maybe what you do first is, do you pencil mark the 5 clues? The reason I'm wondering about that, oh, I think I pressed the wrong button there, is that it's clearly not possible to put the digit 6, for example, in this cell, because now this 5 skyscraper clue could never be met. You know, you could only ever see 4 skyscrapers, the 6, the 7, the 8 and the 9. Everything else will be hidden. So probably what you start with, this might be wrong, but this is what I'm going to do, is a sort of Goodliff-esque festival of pencil marking, because all of those digits have to be selected from 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s. Right, and row 5 looks interesting, doesn't it? Because that's got to reach, you've got to be able to see 5 buildings from this direction and 5 buildings from this direction. So the question we should ask there is, where does the 9 go? Because if we put the 9, well, the 9 can never go closer to this 5 clue than this square. What if we put the 9 there, for example, in row 5? If we put the 9 there, this clue can never be met from this direction, because we could only ever reach a count of 3 skyscrapers before we hit the 9. So I think the 9 has to be in the middle column. Oh, and the 9 is indexing. Yes. Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Now, the 9 is indexing the position of the 5, isn't it? Because it's in the central column. So this is telling us that in row 5, the 5 is in the 9th column. So it's there. And right, and now we have to go upwards to reach a count of 5. So that's going to have to do that. And this is going to have to go upwards to reach the 9. So I think that forces the middle row of the grid somewhat beautifully. So we can get rid of some stuff here. Look, let's try and tidy up our pencil marks. That can't be, oh, that can only be 4 or 5 now. Okay, and that's indexing the position of the 1, of course, in this row. So the 1 is in one of those 2 cells. And by Sudoku, that means the 1 is in one of those 2 cells. Now, remember, this cell is indexing the 1 in this row, and it's now either in column 7 or 8. So that square is a 7 or an 8, I think. And what else can we do with this, our newfound knowledge? In this row, I suppose the 9 has to be quite far away, doesn't it? Because we can't put the 9 in box 4, because if we do, the 5 clue will never be met. We'll never see 5 skyscrapers, because 9's the biggest one. And if we put it there, the maximum we would see would be 1, 2, 3. The 9, therefore, is in one of those 3 cells. And presumably, yeah, okay. Well, it's not there. Because if it was there, what would the index be in this cell? If we put 9 there, you'd have to put 7 there, because the 9's in the 7th column. So that doesn't work. So the 9 is in one of 2 places. Oh, I see. Right, now I can use the clue at the top of column 9. Because if that was a 9... This 5 clue would be impossible. I'd only be able to see 4 skyscrapers coming down the column. So that's not the 9. The 9 goes here. And that means that's got to be an 8 to index this position. And we are... Oh, now there's a 9 in one of these 2 positions by Sudoku in box 4. Which means this square is either a 2 or a 3, because that's indexing the positions of the 9s in row 6. Oh, this is really clever. It's just beautiful, isn't it? The logic is really, it's just elegant and not too brutally hard yet. But this square here now can't be a 5, because if it is a 5, how many skyscrapers could we possibly see before we get to this 9? Bearing in mind that 8 is hidden. If this is a 5, we'd see the 6, the 7, and that's it. So you'd see 1, 2, 3, 4 skyscrapers, but we need 5 skyscrapers. So that's a 4, and that places the 1. And we've got a 1-4 pair here and here now. So that's a 1-4 pair by Sudoku. That square there's a 2 or a 3. Again by Sudoku of all things. Who would have thought I actually did Sudoku in a Sudoku puzzle? Oh no, I was about to say something about 9s and 8s, but... Well, it is true there's an 8 down there. But I don't think we know where it goes, do we? I'm not sure. We've got to be a bit careful, I suppose, with... We've still got to be careful with the 5 clue, because these empty cells now in this row have to ascend. We've got to go 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. So we mustn't put the 7 too close. So the 7, which is the sort of penultimate digit, is going to have to go in one of those cells. That means this is a 7, 8, 9 triple down here, which we didn't know before, just again by Sudoku. 4, 5. So this is now a 5, 6 pair, I think. And we need to see, and we know we need to see these. So this has got to be 5, this has got to be 6. And the 5 is now indexable. So this, yeah, this is right, isn't it? The 5 is indexable. So that must be a 2. And that places the 7 and the 3 and the 2. That's giving me the position of the 9. This is going remarkably well. Probably famous last words. These 3 squares have got to be 3, 4, oh no, not 4, 3, 5 and 6. And we can't put 3 in this square because this is indexing the 5, and that square can't be a 5. So this is 5 or 6. And this is indexing the 5, sorry, so it's self-referential. If that's a 5, that square is a 5 because the 5 has to appear in the 5th column, which is itself. If it's a 6, the 5 has to appear there, so this is never a 5. The 5 is in one of those 2 cells. Oh, and maybe, does this clue tell us the order? We'll see the 2, we'll see the 4, so 1, 2, this square is definitely higher than 4, so we're going to see, so 1, 2, 3, 4 is what we're going to see. We need to see exactly, yeah, okay, this is good, I think. We need to see exactly 1 skyscraper in this sequence of digits, because these, well, the 5 and the 6 sit between the 4 and the 7 and the 8. So if this did go, if we put the 5 here, you're going to see the 6 as well. And now, along here, I think we're going to see too many skyscrapers. We're going to see a 2, a 4, so that's 2 already, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we need 5. So, this tells us the order of these. The 5 must be hidden by the 6, which means the 5 can't be here or it won't be. So this, I think, is the 5. The 5 becomes a self-referencing 5. The 6 hides it, and that square therefore is a 3. And let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's nice now. That's working. Do we... I don't know if we do. I was just wondering whether there was a way we can resolve this 7 and the 8. But that result, I think that revolves around learning which order the 1 and the 4 are in. I'm not sure we know that order yet. Okay, so what do we do next? I think we should keep focusing on 9s probably. 9 in this column can't be too close to the 5 clue, so it's got to be down there. Now that in turn, oh, it's self-referencing, so that's nonsense. Yeah, I was hoping I could use that to tell me something about another column, but I can't. What about in this column then? We've got the same thing, haven't we? In this column we can't put the 9 in those 3 squares because the 5 clue will break. So the 9 is down here, and that does allow me to reference where it's going to appear in this column, because one of these now must reference the 6th column, because the 9 is definitely in column 6 in box 8. So there's a 6 in one of those, which means there's a 6 in one of these. That's not a 5, I've just noticed, or a 2 by the power of Sudoku. Oh, hang on a minute, there's an 8 here. So these have to ascend. This has to be a low digit, a higher digit still, and then the 8. And then the 9 will be the 5th skyscraper. Okay, I don't know if that is useful or not. The 9 in column 1, look, can't go there, because that's going to break the 5 clue at the bottom. So the 9 is in one of those 3 cells, which means there's a 9 in one of these 3 cells, which means this 9 has to be indexed from these 3 positions. So we need to see a 3. This is beautiful. Then we need to see a 3 in one of those 3 squares, and we need to see a 6 and a 9 in those 3 squares. So this is a 3, 6, 9 triple. So that's not 3 anymore. Oh, and we're going to get these now, because we know what they are, and we know they have to ascend. In fact, one of them is a 1. Look, 1, 4, and 7. So it's a snooker maximum, these squares, and we know they must ascend up to the 8 in order to make the 5 clue work, so it's got to look like that, and that's going to give us a whole host of 9s. So the 1 here is telling us this is a 9, the 4 here is telling us this is a 9, the 7 here is telling us this is a 9. Oh, and weirdly, because we'd actually managed to pencil mark 9s at the bottom already, those 9s seem to do nothing else. That can't be a 1 anymore. Wow, okay, that didn't do nearly as much as I was expecting it to. So which clues have we not used? We've not sort of bottomed out this one or this one. So we've got this one, and this one still to use. And they've got to hope they do quite a lot of damage, or we're in trouble. Okay. They can't be 9s anymore, obviously. I sort of want to oh, that can't be 5 now, can it? Because the 6 is hidden by the 8. So if this was 5, if this is 5, you need to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can't do that. So that's got to be 2, 3, or 4 now. Which, I don't know if that's important or not. I really don't get this 159 Sudoku. I made, I remember I did one, who was it by? Was it by Codec, maybe? Codec or Jovial, or... But anyway, it started with a beautiful swordfish idea that took me many minutes to appreciate how it worked. Right, anyway, all of that is a distraction. What do we do next? We've got to... See, this one could be a 5, I think. A 5 there, a 6 there, a 7 there, and then an 8 up here would actually potentially work. Bother. Oh, I tell you what you can't have, and that's a 9 in this cell, because that's going to break this 5 clue. So if you can't have a 9 here, you can't have a 3 here, which is perhaps interesting. This column feels the most well, the column we've got the most information in compared to this row where we hardly know anything. This one, I don't feel like I know enough. I think this column is interesting as well because, of course, it is indexing the ones. Yeah, okay, so is this one the key to the puzzle? This is an inch. Yeah, there's a there's a hidden 7-8 pair in the column. Right, this one is the whole key to the puzzle. Why do I say that? Well, let's look at these two squares and consider what the options for these squares could be. Well, what they cannot be is 7 or 8. Because if they're 7 or 8, that would imply I'm putting ones in this 2x2 region, which I'm not doing. So in this column, where do you put the 7 and the 8? You've got to put them in those two squares. Which means that there is definitely a 1 in one of those two squares, I suppose. Yeah, but it means more. Or does it? No, it does. It does mean more than that. You can't put the 8 here, or you'd only reach a count of 4 on the skyscrapers. You could go 2, 3, 8, 9. That's not enough. So the 7 and the 8 ordering is known, which gives us this as an 8, which gives us this as a 1, this is a 4, this is a 1, and we're off and running again. So 7 is now in one of those two squares in box 1, look. But I don't think that's impacted by any skyscraper clues. We've got to be a bit careful with the ordering down here now, though. Because... or maybe not. I'm just thinking what we've got to do is make sure this square can't be 5 now. That's for sure. Because then this wouldn't be greater than it. This one needs to be less than this one, so that can't be 2. So this is 3, 4, or 5, and that's indexing the 1 in this row. It's not 4, because the 1 would clash, so that's not 4. That one must be the same. That can't be 4 either, because then the 1 would go there, which it can't do. So this is a 2 or a 3, which means... oh, it's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, because now it's locked in this box. And if it's locked in the box... now, by Sudoku, this can't be a 3, because that would put the 1 here where it can't be anymore. The 1 is actually in one of those two squares, and therefore it is 5. And therefore that square has got to be a 1, because it's being indexed. Oh, I see what this is doing. I've just seen what this is doing, I think. Those are 2, 3, and 6. But... and well, one of these is a 6. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by my brain. Brain, stop distracting me. But because the 6 is going up here now, the 6 is indexing a 1 in one of those, which we could have got by Sudoku, but I got it from indexing. Now, what I was thinking is that this cell here is telling us that the skyscraper in row 8 is going 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this square can't be a 6. Because then the 6 is going to be hidden by wherever I put the 9 in the row. So that is a 9, and that means we get a 3, 6 pair here. That's not a 9. And we can we do more? I hope so. I feel like we're on the cusp of a breakthrough. What is the correct... I don't feel I've looked nearly enough at 5s. And the fact that this has to ascend, is that somehow important? The 6 is quite restricted actually in this row, because it can't go close to the 9. The 9 needs to have 7 and 8 first. It can't go there. It probably can go there. And it can go there. So I think 6 is in one of 2 places. I'm just going to make those yellow just to try and remind myself there's something going on with those digits. Right, so now we've got to find something else. I don't really know where I should be looking, if I'm honest. Maybe 8 in this row? Is that going to be restricted? This can't be 8, but the 8 could absolutely be in either of those cells. It would be very natural for it to be in those cells, so that's probably not a good thought. There's a 1 in this domino, this 2 by 2 area. I haven't even got a feeling for where I should look here. Is it something to do with... I bet it's something to do with the fact that you now can't put 2s and 3s. Oh, maybe it's 3 in this column. Because what I'm thinking here is, this 5 is preventing there from being... If either of these were 3, you'd have to put a 5 in those squares, which you can't do. So 3 is definitely up there, which is telling us that 5 is... Oh, it's telling us what we already knew by Sudoku. Sorry, that's useless. It's useless. No, come on. What more can we do? This feels like it's done now. I really think so. Where have we not used our... Well, we've definitely not used the information fully in row 8. And we've probably got more stuff we can do in this column as well. If this is a 4, we would have to have a 5 in one of these 2 squares, which would mean that we'd have to put a 6 in one of these squares, and that would be fine, I think. So that's not the trick. What is the trick? Where is the trick? Oh, woe is me. 7? Is that restricted? Can you put a 7? Don't think there's a problem there. What about this column? Perhaps I meant to actually do some Sudoku. That's not a silly idea. 2, 5, 6 and 8. And we seem to know there's a 6 up there, so we can get rid of 6 from here. So the 5 can't be there. So this actually is quite restricted as a digit. That's down to 2 or 8. If this was a 5, this would be a 7. Don't see a problem with that. Is there a problem with either of these being a 7? Not that I can see. So I'm now well and truly stuck, aren't I? Oh dear. I actually don't like, as well in these puzzles, pencil marking too heavily, because I just feel it gets so cluttered and you lose the ability, or I lose the ability to see the wood from the trees. 7 is down here. But it must be 1s, 5s and 9s I need to focus on. Is there some reason? No. Is there a reason down here that is 7 an issue in this row? 7 couldn't go next to 9, could it? Oh, that's it. That's it. Wow. I'm so sorry. That's taken me a while to spot that. I think I thought about just about every other digit in relation to this row. But if you think about the 7 in this row, I think we find joy. We can't have the 7 here. It's too close to the 9. We need this. We need the row to go 7, 8, 9. So this is not 7. This is not 7 by Sudoku. This is 7. We're going to find that. This is not 7, and this is not 7 because we need the 6 to be seen. So this becomes 7, and that also, look at that. That's so annoying. I did the yellow for where the 6s could go, and had I thought about 7 first, it would all have been fine and dandy, but instead it was looking grim over Bill's mother's. Now, there's a 7 now in one of those 2 squares, which means, of course, there's a 5 in one of these 2 squares because of the indexing. Now that means that square is not a 5, and we seem to have discovered a 2-8 pair, which is rather beautiful, because that gives us a 5-6 pair at the top of the grid, and it tells us that these squares are a 2, 3 and an 8, none of which are indexes, but never mind. These squares are now 4s, 5s and 7s, and that square looks like it's a naked single. We need the 8 in this. Where does the 8 go in the row? We need it to be further along the row than the 7, but it can't be here by Sudoku, so it goes there. That gives us the 2. These squares are now a 2-3 pair, and there's a 3 here, so the 3 and the 2 go in. That fixes this digit, which is an indexing digit on the 1, which fixes the 9, oh my goodness me. Clover, when you came up with this, you must have been so proud. This is just, to do this with just 5 clues is really very, very impressive. Now this is a 1-3-7 triple, I think. That's not 7, that's not 1. Yeah, okay, and that's not surprising because we've basically learnt, because there's a 2 in one of these, we knew there was a 1 in one of these because of the indexing. Now, have we found enough? That's a 7, so this is a 7, and this is a 5, and that therefore needs to have an 8 indexing it, which fixes the 8 and the 4. Plonks a 4 here, which needs to have a 5 next to it because of the indexing. This is 3, this is 6. And now we need to know, we need these to be a 2-6 pair. And the 6 here is helpful. Good. Good, 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 good. So hopefully, we should just be finishing off, I think. We've got a 2-3 there now, which is putting a 4 here. These squares are a 1-5 pair. So one of these is a 5, which means one of these exactly is a 6, which is interesting because now we can ask where 6 goes in row 1. It's not there, so it must be here, which places 5, which allows us to know that this has got to be a 7 now. That took the pencil mark of a 6, and that places a 3, and that gives us the 6 and the 2. So that's not 2 anymore, that's not 3 anymore, and probably something else, but I can't see what it is. So what are those 2 squares? They are 8 and 2, which we now know. That's a 2, that's an 8. Maverick's taken off, but too late. Too late to thwart me today, Maverick. I have already been concentrating, and you have been dilatory in your efforts to upset me. 7, 3, 5, 1. Yeah, okay, that's working. I can see that I could have got that from the 6 as soon as I've got it. And hopefully it'll just be Sudoku now. 4, 5 and 8. So this is a 5, this is an 8, and this is a 4. And we've filled in all the digits, and we can click tick, and we have solved the puzzle, which was extremely clever. Of Clover, I should add. Clover, of course, if you misprint a letter, is clever, which seems somehow appropriate. Loved that, absolutely loved it. Started off quite easy with the 5s, giving us the whole sort of pattern of row 9. But after that, it was really, really cunning stuff. We had to keep thinking about sort of a combination of, well, as you'd expect, a combination of the skyscrapers and the indexing to sort of work our way logically around it. And then I got completely and hopelessly stuck on row 8 in a very mean way. But eventually, it resolved itself. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.